Hi, and welcome back to the Up Zone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts, Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House Representative in the 43rd District with the state of North Carolina, and myself, Keisha Esquibel, former City Council Representative for the 3rd District in the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina. We are ecstatic to be here. It's been a wonderful week. Last week, Mr. Floyd, I did something super exciting and got to walk with the class of 2025 at Fayetteville Technical Community College and celebrated with my family afterwards and got to hear a fantastic commencement speech with Senator Kirk Deviere, not Senator. He is now chairman of the Board of County Commissioners. He did the commencement speech at Fayetteville Tech, and it was just an all around good time. So, congratulations to me and my family on that. Mr. Floyd, we also had the Fayetteville State commencement. How did that go, sir?
Well, I'm sorry, the Fayetteville State Commission.
That's
We
what
had
I
the
said.
largest class. Now, you said Fayetteville State. I just want to say the Fayettille State
Gotcha.
graduated class of 1,000. Right now, the summer school is already at 4,000 plus. And you know one thing, Madam Waddell?
Tell me, sir.
There's a building going up on there's a building going up on Murchison Road, and there's an educational building going up also. So Fayetteville State is doing so. And don't forget now, this weekend is E.E. Smith activity, and
Okay.
we are going to
And we'll
post that
post
on
that
our
information.
website.
Yes,
Yeah,
we will.
so that those individuals can know what's going on. And we said last week that remember, look at your liquid consumption, or if you don't, you would provide some assistance to the State Board of Education because that's where fine
Absolutely.
go.
I want to give
And
kudos
and
to the chancellor at the Fayetteville State because apparently he is doing something right to be increasing those graduation numbers because I know that that was a big topic of conversation when
it
he
was.
came into his position. So I want to give kudos to him and to his administrative staff and all the faculty at Fayetteville State University for the work that they are doing to matriculate their students through that university. I'm going to tell you a huge indicator of student success or a huge motivator towards student success is the faculty and the staff that surrounds them. So kudos to you guys for doing the work that needs to be done there. Go ahead, Mr. Floyd. What other announcements do you
And
have?
also Dr. Green, of our health, I mean, of our social service, the health and social
Hmm.
service, it's leaving the last of this year
Yeah, and
because
there's
her
not an
husband
issue. She's
is
not
vacating.
leaving. Yeah, it's not an issue.
You know,
Her husband's
she
relocating to his final duty station.
so she is going there, and also uh, Mr. Green, a graduate of Fayetteville State, two-time Super Bowl winner, had a giveaway here, in Fayetteville.
Say
But
that
there's a
name
lot
again.
going on.
Who, Mr. Floyd? Who was that?
Mr. Williams.
And Mr. Williams, there's a gnat flying around in here. Mr. Williams is also, isn't he a Kansas City Chief?
Yes, yes. And he
Mm-hmm.
finished the Fayetteville State University.
You better rep
One
your
of the first,
university.
one of the first African American from Fayetteville State to become a pro. I think he was drafted in the 14th round somewhere there, but
Yeah.
he is financially sound, now my understanding.
I
And
love to see the
and
give
just
back. I love to see the give back. Remember when the basketball player, I cannot remember his name right now, but came back and at Smith Rec put up the basket. Is it Dennis Smith?
yeah, I think this is yeah. Hmm.
Came and did the basketball court over at Smith Rec, and I just I love seeing the give back. If you make it from a community, come back and give to your community. If you're in this community and you're doing well, give back to your community. Give back.
Well, I hope so, Tisha. And that brings me to another point,
Hmm.
about the giving back is what the county did, as it provides some temporarily support for the Salvation Army, so that it can help the homeless there. And
Hmm.
also, we may get a chance to talk about that, about the county rejected the solar panel of PWC, which the city owns the property. And the other thing is the convention center on or off. But the main thing that I like for you to talk with me about today. Oh yeah, the state house has approved its budget, and it's going to the conferee. It will be in a conferee committee to
Mm-hmm.
hammer out the difference. But the thing that I like to talk about today, not about the county budget, but I live in 301,
Yes.
and so I'm concerned about the city budget and about my uh, property tax revaluation and how the city budget looked and how it would affect my community. Whether or not what we saw with the $312 million is a voodoo economics or just whatever it is,
Yeah.
But it's a
And Mr. Floyd, it's interesting because they recently had a meeting. And during this, and this is the Fayetteville City Council, they're in the process of having their budget conversations. And the budget presentation overviews included presentations regarding Office of Community Safety, police and fire departments, stormwater infrastructure, technology enhancements, and compensation and salary studies. Interestingly enough, when you talk about public safety, technology, police, and police IT upgrades, this budget has an inclusion of, I think it's $4.22 million proposed for police IT. That's $1.4 million for radio upgrades, 2.6 million for body cam contract, 100,000 for video storage and analysis, and 82,000 for camera migration. There is some discussion about holding back some funds to allow the new police chief to assess and reprioritize, but those conversations, of course, are ongoing. Now, Mr. Floyd, one of the interesting points that was made about the information and technology, we talked about this a little bit, was the police cameras, right? Or the cameras throughout the city of Fayetteville. So, in this public safety and budget and the surveillance technology discussion, council members debated whether public safety funding included just the police and fire or also this office of community safety. As a point of clarification, these dollars are earmarked only toward the police and fire, and $75,000 is allocated for a related study that's already in the budget. So, Floyd, we have already in Fayetteville 200 public safety cameras. Most of them are downtown. We have 60 license plate reader cameras, and they're placed along major roads. There are some notable coverage gaps in the northern part of our city, the western part of our city, and the southwestern areas. And there's technology limitations. So, there's no disaster recovery system for video storage, which means that the data could be lost if there's an event like a hurricane. The current radio network is a bandwidth bottleneck and a single point of failure. There's no integrated AI or advanced analytics like the BriefCam currently in place. And areas such as 295 lack surveillance due to multi jurisdictional challenges. So, what the expansion plan that's being proposed by the city is in this budget is 162 new public safety cameras, plus 128 license plate readers, totaling 542 sensors citywide. So, when I said that to you earlier, you said, "What are we going to be? A police state?" So, ask the people, are we turning into a police state? The estimated
uh,
cost
uh,
of this. Go ahead, sir.
no, I mean, I understand, security, but at the same time, there must be a sense of privacy for the citizen, of this community. All of us are not, you, you know, how can the board say, dip into the system.
Right.
Okay, we are abiding citizens, but you're gonna have all of this technology, and just yesterday, would it have prevented what you mentioned earlier? Was it Wendy?
Wendy's
That,
on
that was,
Skybo Road.
yeah. I mean, would it
Yeah,
had it prevented
how's that
that?
curfew helping that, right? It's
I mean, that's
crazy.
what.
The lack of awareness to what the issues really are from some of our elected body is just absolutely captivating and just really grabs your attention and makes you focus because you really wonder. can they really be this detached? Because Mr. Floyd, literally, this shooting took place in broad daylight. I think the argument would be made by the council, though, that these types of cameras might, while they may not prevent or they might not prevent these types of instances, they could possibly be a deterrent if people knew that they existed. And in addition to that, they may be able to help people solve these crimes. However, Mr. Floyd, this is what we're looking at: an $82 million price tag for this expansion, which would require 11 high capacity servers with a 60-day retention capacity, new network infrastructure, and AI analytics. There are
How
some
much?
council.
How much is all of the $312 million? I didn't mean to cut you.
No, you're
How
good.
much of this is going? How much of this is going to IT?
Well, let me tell you. So this price tag alone for this extension is $8.2 million. Now, Mr. Floyd, there's more in this budget. So with this implementation, what they be looking at also, so they're again, we're talking about those extra cameras, three mobile camera trailers, and the implementation would go like this. They do half of downtown Morgan and Yadkin roads, and then phase two would be the remaining of downtown Cliffdale and Rayford roads. So that's where we would see this
Let me ask you another
technology
question,
deployed.
then, man. I know you giving me all these
Go
figures.
ahead, sir.
What about 301? Is any in 301?
I
I'm
didn't
not
see that
talking
as
about downtown 301.
I didn't see that as a part of the
I mean, cause
conversation. But
we
they
because
can keep their cameras from over here as far as I'm concerned. They
yeah,
can keep their cameras from over here. Don't bring your cameras over here
but
where
we
we at.
need
I
it
like
here.
my privacy. Well, Mr. Floyd, but I would
I
argue
mean,
this. I would argue this point that when we, and I can only speak for when I was in office because this was a great source of joy for me. When I was in office, I attended the majority of the city council meeting, the majority of the community watch meetings, and received the reports where crime was concerned in our area. We had some of the lowest crime rates in District 3 when I was in office. Now, I was praying for my community regularly, so I think that that's a defining characteristic. But we weren't like Western Fayetteville. We had small things happening. We had cars being broken into, and yeah, we don't like that. Nobody likes that. We had some domestic disputes, but we did not. The volume of crime was very low in 301. I think that it was always a misconception that we were the problem children on our side of town.
well, well, I mean, I understand that, and
But don't
but when
invest
I see,
everywhere but here, right?
yeah, I mean, you know, we needed, we needed, we needed also. I know in some communities, people have called and asked about, for instance, as an example,
Mm-hmm.
if my alarm system goes off 3 times, the city will require a check from me because
Yeah.
I don't know how to do all this pin pals and jail and all this other stuff. So but in our community, if you want to play loud music all day long, it's okay. If you want to have unlicensed drugs, so okay. So we need the support also so we can enjoy the safety of our community. But 312 million, this is just for that system, not counting the other studies and other things for the police department. I think it's good. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's good. But one thing that one of the council members mentioned, in this budget, is there anything in the budget for our youth?
Well,
And
let's
they
talk
said,
about let's talk about what else this budget held, okay? So this budget also addressed street resurfacing. So when we look at street resurfacing, the current budget for markings is about $200,000 for 10.8 miles of resurfaced streets. An additional $40,000 is budgeted for maintaining existing faded markings. And of course, and I appreciate Councilmember Hare for this, he and others requested an increase due to senior safety concerns. It's not just seniors that have issues with safety. Our roads need to be there needs to be work done to our roads. Street resurfacing, Mr. Floyd. We talked last week about the Powell bill funding, which for the city of Fayetteville is about $6 to $7 million per year. When we did our survey in the city of Fayetteville about pavement resurfacing, This survey recommended $10 million a year of an investment to maintain road quality, Current spending is 8.5 million. So that's short of the recommendation by the survey. That $67 million of Powell bill funding is in jeopardy. And there's a GO bond that gives us $4 million that the people voted for. So that's $4 million a year. But if we use that Powell bill funding, now we're $6 million short of the target. And that doesn't factor inflation in. So
Well,
right
thank you,
now,
Madam Waddell. I appreciate I appreciate that. I appreciate the road surface and all that. But you know one thing too, as you get older, resurfacing the road, marking the road, and all of that, striping the road, all that is good. But tell me one thing, why do our street lights on our roads stay out for months before they are replaced? We need to see the marking, and many of our street lights are out. And I know Spring Lake did a study, and this officer reported that they had a number of lights out in the community. So who reports to PWC or to the city of Fayetteville? I'm talking about an entity, not an individual. I mean, not not a not a community person, but to the city of Fayetteville, which is PWC is owned by the city of Fayetteville. Is that certain lights are out in our community? I mean, the marking is good, but if I can't see the marking, what good is the marking and the resurface when at nighttime the community is black?
that's a very good question. That's a good question to ask, and even more, I guess a good companion question with that would be, who should people bring that to the attention of when these things are happening, and who should we hold accountable when it's not being corrected? So if we see that
But have you
streetlights are out,
called in? I mean, have you? I mean, everything now is going to electronic. I mean,
yeah,
you get a voice, and by the time you get through, you be done drunk the cup. You be done finish your coffee. By the time you get through the prompts and everything, just to report a light, and then they might want to ask you to pose them.
yeah. Well, I mean, and I guess that's why we ought to, again, our focus here is to make sure that people understand how this all works. So, Mr. Floyd, who should they call if those lights are out? Who is the who should they be reaching out to? Should they be going online to the city's app and reporting it, or who should be held responsible for that?
Well, that's
Because
a
we're
good. I
not
mean,
we're
that's a
not calling the polls to change the lights.
no, no, no. We're not. I mean, really, we as 200, what is 240, 210 residents
Mm-hmm.
in the city of Fayetteville, we all work for the city. We all work for the city. We cut 5 foot of our front yard for the city. We also roll our carts to the street for the city. Our cities say that you pay a garbage fee, both for trash and for leaf, but you
Mm-hmm.
can't put in the mulch in the trash can. You got to find a place if you use mulch to, because the landfill doesn't take any mulch, and you can't let the grass grow up in front of your house, so you mow it.
Mm-hmm.
So we all are helping beautify the city. But at the same time, I'm working hard to beautify the city. But you putting up 162 more cameras, so I can't leave home and buy some gas for my lawnmower and my weed eater
And I
without
think
being monitored.
there has to be some balance between recognizing that some of this is strategic and does help the police department solve crimes, and then also being able to balance the 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 feeling that you're not being over policed at all times. And so one of our viewers made a comment and they said, no, we're not a police state. You have no expectation of privacy in public. While we recognize that, we also recognize that you should also not feel like you are constantly under surveillance, because that then turns us more into that George Orwell, that Orwellian state of what we read when we read Orwell's piece 1984. And truly, Mr. Floyd, there has to be some balance in that, because what people don't understand is the same technology that you grow comfortable with, thinking that it is protecting you, will become the same technology that will turn on you and monitor you and subject you to whatever is to come. And I am a believer that that is the case. Now, Mr. Floyd, the other part that they talked about a lot was sales tax and revenue concerns. We talked a lot about how that sales tax formula change would reduce revenue by 3.1 to $13 million, depending on the method. This year, the city did retain $1.6 million that was not remitted to the county, and there was some debate on whether to dedicate that retained revenue for specific initiatives. Now, we've talked a lot about stormwater over the years. We've talked a lot about resurfacing, and we've talked a lot about how all of these things would be paid for. Well, you and I both know that residential properties rose about 88% in Fayetteville post revaluation. And I'm sure that there has to be some eyeballing of how that funding could close some of these potential gaps and fix some of these things that are outstanding. So council talked a lot about how they would balance tax rate cuts with public expectations for services, how they would avoid deferring maintenance that would cost more later, how reassessing spending on underused budget line items might help with this budget, and they called for strategic investments in safety and infrastructure. Mr. Floyd, there's so much more. There's so much more to this discussion. But before we move on to the remainder of the discussion, I do want to highlight the fact that while this is an ongoing conversation, it is always important to know whether or not your council has a working knowledge of how all the pieces come together. Because one of the things that's been talked about a lot is this property revaluation, right?
Yes, and I'm
There
still
was,
waiting now because September is right around the corner, and the taxes start. I mean, the county starts sending you your notice around what in August, I believe it is, somewhere around that way. A lot of part of August, you get that property tax, and the only good thing about it is that the county allow you to pay it proportion. You don't have to pay it all at one time. So many people take that 4 months, to pay that tax because some taxes for some people are extremely high as it relates to property.
mm-hmm,
You know, so that's the good part, but you have to start planning, now for those. So though the city lowered the property tax and say you get more, but I just can't see a government entity has a chance to get their hand on additional money and don't take it. Some
absolutely.
some kind of way.
Absolutely. And you did
So
mention that there were some key discussions about youth and community safety. There were some concerns, Mr. Floyd, about the limited $150,000 budget for youth programs, considering the impacts of the youth curfew. There was an emphasis on safe spaces for youth, including late night programming. Why do you need late night programming if you've got a curfew? And community engagement partnerships. And multiple council members supported increasing funding for micro grants to $200,000 from $150,000, and expanding eligibility for neighborhood cameras and speed monitors, ring doorbells in high crime areas,
wait a minute.
local. Not,
You said neighbor. You said more cameras.
yeah,
You said neighborhood cameras.
yeah,
But you're getting 162, and you talk about neighborhood cameras too.
yeah.
So you're tracking me when I pull out my driveway.
Yeah, you're going to be monitored from the time you walk out your front door until the time you walk back in it. And the reality is, Mr. Floyd, you're going to be monitored inside your house too, because a lot of people have all these cameras in their home and these smart TVs and these computers like the ones we're on with cameras. So you are truly always being watched. I mean, listen, there
But
was something that came out, Mr. Floyd, recently where those vacuum cleaners, the Roomba vacuum cleaners,
yes,
um those Roomba vacuum cleaners uh, were releasing camera like pictures from inside of the homes that they were vacuuming, and people were baffled and were like, "I didn't even know Roomba had a camera." Well, of course, it has some sort of a something like an eye that it can see with, because it's got to know where it's going in your home. So We're constantly being monitored.
Okay, but
Constantly.
think that now when there is a crime committed, the police department, you know, and I had to give them credit, most police department, where it is a crime committed, the
Mm-hmm.
police department walks that neighborhood, okay, walks that neighborhood, and they'll knock on every door that has a camera,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and the doorbell camera is, for some people, is the best thing since ice cream,
Mm-hmm.
okay. That means I can see who at my door. I don't have
Absolutely.
to open the door or not. So what I'm saying that most, when I was out campaigning, you know, and one guy told me, he said, "Man, I just didn't feel like getting out my bed. I saw you ring my doorbell." Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So what I'm saying there, and people give the police department access to their cameras, and that too help them solve crime. So,
Mm-hmm.
they walk through the neighborhood and they look at which house has cameras, which house has doorbell cameras, and it assists them in solving crime. I mean, it's a collection of data, what I'm speaking of. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I just don't want to live in at my age, to live in a police state. Let me go out, you know, with some form of dignity. Yeah,
Absolutely. So one of
but
the
I know
things
it's
that was
I,
it's
I know
yeah,
it's
it's
I know
happening.
we need them, but
All
I
things
want
in
a
moderation.
little bit.
Remember when they used to say that? All things in moderation.
Yes,
So the police
yes,
department
and not
also
$8.2 million,
there was
not
another
eight point two
discussion.
million dollars per.
I'm gonna give you another 2 million, Mr. Floyd, but this is actually reimbursed by the Cumberland County Schools. The police department has a line item in their budget about the SRO TCO program, but that is $2 million that is reimbursed by the by Cumberland County Schools. So it would appear, based upon that we may be continuing to move forward under the model that we're seeing currently. Now, there was some conversation about about compensation compression and pay equity, because apparently the way that the council approved the budget the last time, we've got some people who are receiving higher pay than people who have been in positions longer than they have, and that is because of the way that this whole compensation uh, plan was rolled out. They are working to correct that. There's going to have to be an investment in that area. Um, there are some actions that were placed. There's this thing called a parking lot that the council will sit items in to kind of come back and discuss later. So some of the action items and parking lot topics were reassessing youth programming funding to match scale of curfew impact, explore feasibility of expanding, which to me says they expect for this curfew to go on for some time. Explore feasibility of expanding neighborhood-based surveillance and safety tech, provide detailed breakdowns on public safety compensation, distribution of evaluation increases across demographics, speed sentry devices, and expansion needs. There's also some conversation about a United Way partnership with a request for $5,000 to $10,000 of city support or employee giving campaign for the Literacy Council and nonprofit capacity building. Um, Mr. Floyd, I
But
just,
Tisha, under any pay plan
mhm,
that you are going to bring forward,
yes.
there's also going to be some pushback and has some adverse effect on some employees.
Well, but Mr.
You
Floyd,
know,
the issue was that junior officers, like newly promoted sergeants, are earning more than their tenured counterparts due to the step pay system adjustment made last year. So it's not just like some murmuring going on. It's you're new in the position, we're the same rank, and you, as a new person in this position, are making more than me, who's been here longer than you.
well, then again, so you talk about longevity.
No, yeah, exactly.
Okay,
But you're also talking about this council, whoever presented this budget when they presented it to them last year and made this particular line item, did not understand that element as they moved it forward, because I don't think that they would have done that had they have understood that, because I know when I was there, that was
but
one of the main things we talked about.
okay, okay, but when a person has X years of service,
Mhm.
15 years of service, and he or she gets 7.5% longevity, whatever that is, whatever that percentage is, and then they get locked into that to that salary there, and then you roll in another pay plan, wherein that a person that just coming in salary is equal to. I don't care how you do a pay plan, you're going to have this problem.
You're going to have this problem. And so what has
I don't
happened
care how
now
you do it.
is there's the immediate fix is that the city council will have to allocate up to $450,000 to correct compression in the police department immediately. And they're going to have to do a public safety compensation study. That's where that $75,000 that we talked about earlier
And
is
you'll have the
budget.
same problem when you finish that study. That $75,000, you're gonna have the same problem a year out or 2 years out.
Well, and I'm not big on a whole lot of these studies because I think often you just need go talk to the department heads and you'll find out what you need to know. I think that we spend a lot of money on studies and a lot of that money could be spent towards some type of an implementation. But I understand that it's the government and you can't do anything without a study. And so here we are. And Mr. Floyd, I don't disagree with you about the point you're making. Not at all.
Hmm? I mean, it's it's there, but I just don't. I mean, when I was in the house, we had what we call a PAGE program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that allow youth to come to the General Assembly, providing that they had the academic requirement and permission from their parents and the school to come into the General Assembly to get an idea about how government works and
Mm-hmm.
get an understanding of government, give them some civic responsibility. It
Mm-hmm.
seems to me that that's something that the city of Fayetteville ought to do as it relates to you. Bring them into city government and allow them to partner and learn about how the finance does its budget, how the police department does its operation, environmental service, how that whatever, and you will allow the youth to see the inner operation of government. It's a minimum cost of whatever. I think the student there get, I think it's like $150 a week, and
Mm-hmm.
they get that's like, but they get a chance to see, and they also get a chance to meet students from all across the state, and they form relationships, and many of them, that relationship follow them into higher education.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's what the city ought to do. Talking about a youth program, and you got a curfew. You got a curfew at 9 o'clock, and you got a youth program at 11 o'clock. Where I can come out the house and shoot a few hoops. No, I'm not coming out there. You already got a curfew, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm an African American too, and I love to shoot
Right.
basketball. No, I won't be out there in your 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock program at night. That's not gonna happen.
Right.
Now, I have enough problem as it is between that time and 9 o'clock. If you understand what I mean.
Right. Right. I do. And I absolutely don't I'll say this for the budget conversation. I don't begrudge the council having to go through this process. It's not an easy process to determine how you're going to spend the tax dollars. And one of the things that we went over earlier that I just think is always such it's a beautiful dance if done correctly, but it's that dance of managing expectations in accordance to the allocation of funding provided. And so I think whoever made this comment, I back it 110% because when you begin to talk about service level expectation, it is very important that the community understand we pay for the service level. We pay for the service. And so what we're willing to pay determines the level of service that we are going to be able to receive. We should have an expectation that our governing bodies are operating efficiently with our tax dollars. I think that's where the chatter comes in at because most of us are willing to pay for adequate services as long as we are adequately receiving of those services. So there are potholes in our streets here in District 3 that should have been repaired long time ago. There are potholes that while I was in office, I had to have there was a quick fix done, which temporary is fine as if you don't mind continuing to do it temporarily every time it tears up. But ultimately, there needs to be a long-term fix. But Mr. Floyd, those are the types of things that make a person feel disgruntled when these budget conversations happen. And like you said, if there's cameras going up, don't forget about all of the parts of the community, because all of us are paying for the cameras. But I will again assert, y'all can keep your cameras.
Well,
Keep
well,
your
I agree
cameras.
with you on that piece, but you know, when you if there anything in this budget, and I skimmed it,
Hmm.
prior to the today's meeting, I, the only economic development that I noticed for my area, 301 Murchison Road, was that's done by Fayetteville State. But I understand as I begin to read the, and look at the budget, my hope lies for Fayetteville, for Murchison Road, is through the grant process.
Hmm.
If there's no grant, then there will be no improvement in the Murchison Road. And given government today at the federal level, it's gonna be like getting a tooth out of a hen.
Yeah.
So but the thing of it is there's hope. And you mentioned about that. Could we talk about the Salvation Army, and you talk about making good use of the of tax dollars, because that's what Commissioner Glenn Adams said about the county helping the Salvation Army.
So, Mr. Floyd, I thought that was interesting. I thought that, because we saw the article that said that the Salvation Army was going to have to shut down its sheltering because it just didn't have the funding. So it's interesting to see that the county is now saying they're going to provide some funding to to keep that sheltering option viable. I did read some of the comments. I'll be honest with you, I didn't retain them because once I started looking at that budget, it took all my mental focus. But what were your thoughts about that
Well,
conversation as I brush back up on what those comments were?
uh, now the county said that we are going to do this on a temporary basis for a year, which is
Mhm.
$565,000, and there may be a committee set up to help oversee the operation of the Salvation Army, for that period of time. But what really got me was they come back with this same old thing. Maybe we can get the city of Fayetteville to help us, with the homeless shelter and the Salvation Army. Maybe we can get some funding from the city. And then again, Commissioner Adams said what you just talked about earlier. With the city, is that the $563,000? If you look at the financial picture, it's not good use of taxpayer money.
So it
Uh,
was Commissioner
so
Glenn Adams and Marshall Faircloth who voted against this funding, and it's $563,000 to support operations. There are about 50 to 60 individuals who have been displaced as a result of this shift, and this funding would create placement for those individuals. Their concern, that's again Commissioner Adam and Commissioner Faircloth. Their concern was the Salvation Army's financial management and staffing challenges. So the organization had previously relied on a temporary staffing agency and owes between $80,000 to $100,000 for those services. The city of Fayetteville's involvement remains uncertain. While the Salvation Army requested $200,000 from the city, some officials view the shelter as a county responsibility. Good for them. Good for them, because that falls under Health and Human Services, and that's absolutely correct. County Manager Clarence Greer, and it's about time, Mr. Floyd, that there are finally council members who understand the division of responsibility between city services and county services and state services. Most certainly, that is an accurate assessment. So the county manager Clarence Greer indicated that the city might collaborate following the county's lead. I guess we'll just
do
have
you
to wait
think
and
do,
see.
do you think now let's pause right there, Madam Waddell. Do you think the city, after Glenn Adams knocked out
Should
that
they
social council,
they'd be
is
some
going?
fools.
Yeah, do you actually think that the city is going to contribute
They would
some
be
money.
fools to do that. They would
Okay.
absolutely be fools to do something like that. Absolutely.
So, so I don't think that the city would do that because the city likes one thing and the county likes one thing. And you've been and you was on the council. The whole ideology about both government, who is going to be in charge.
That's right. That's right. So
Yeah.
negotiations for the contract are expected to conclude within 2 to 3 weeks, potentially allowing the shelter to reopen in early June. We'll just have to wait and see.
Well, I think that's just one thing that I don't know. Commissioner Adams is getting a little bit boisterous these last several days.
What you mean
He
by that?
voted again.
He's never been a quiet fella. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, but he I mean he is a little bit more aggressive than he has been in the past. And
But Mr. Floyd,
I talked with someone.
I think that has something to do with the fact that, see, before, let me tell you, Commissioner Adams is very strategic. I've always known him to be, he's a very smart man and he's very strategic. And you have to remember that the composition of the board before gave him some leverage to sort of allow other people to be out front and say the quiet part out loud, and he didn't have to. But now those people are not there anymore. They're not
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I agree with you, on that. But some of the things he is going to, not that I disagree.
Hmm.
Just like with PwC, wanted to clear 45 acres of land for a solar
Hmm.
panel. And he mentioned then that okay, but it's not zoned for that when you can build 260 houses, and then the neighbor who across the street said that it's only going to provide current for 800 houses, and it's good on sunny days.
Right.
But it doesn't help us as we begin to try to move out of our tier one status there to tier two, because you have to have some energy if you're going to attract new businesses. And so I could understand both sides, but I was just somewhat surprised that he took that both. Again, that I could understand both sides of that zoning in which he looked at, and he sort of looked at the person that indicated that the 45 acres of land, can be used. Yeah, it can handle the rain, but if
Hmm.
you do it the way that he is talking about, you're going to have runoff. You remember a couple of weeks ago when we talked about what business was doing as it relates to paving areas,
Hmm.
paving their parking lot, and the runoff that occurred
Hmm.
into
Hmm.
the streets from the various businesses. So that's a concern over there. But I was just
Well, let's talk
somewhat
dollars and
surprised.
cents, though. Let's talk dollars and cents, Mr. Floyd, because this is again a strategic move. Let's talk about tax collection, okay? Who collects taxes? Property taxes.
I hate to say it, but the county does that.
Okay, okay. So put a pin right there. If the county collects property taxes and there is land that is currently zoned residential, if you change the zoning of that land to agricultural, what happens to the tax value?
It it's lower. I mean, you can't
It
grow
goes
anything.
down. It goes down. And if you enter into a partnership with PwC versus maintaining that 45-acre tract and using it for housing, what happens to the tax value? Because if you put houses on it, the tax value is going to go up. You're going to get
Look,
more taxes. If you go into an agreement with PwC, PwC is essentially, let's just call them a government agency, essentially. You're not going to get the same tax value. So you're going to lose money all the way around. So it's easy to say the land is not zoned for that. It would be deforestation. Like it's easy to say all those things, but the underlying current is the county stands to make more money if they keep that land zoned residential and allow somebody to build on that
yeah,
land.
teach, yeah, teach, but the city bought the land. Now, holding that teach for you, I know the city bought the land and
Okay.
already had some form of electrical capacity or whatever
Gotcha.
you want to call it on the land. Okay,
Okay,
but
see, that's a
now
that's a
don't forget
component
now.
that was missing, so that's good.
Okay, now Madam Waddell, I had to refer to you as Madam Waddell. Okay, now you know they bought some land out there in Cedar Creek. They bought 54 acres of land out there, and they can only use 17 acres of the
Because
50
it's
plus
swamp.
acres of land that they bought. Yes. Okay.
Hmm.
So look like we just buy land. Look
And
like
but
we buy
also
land just to buy land.
Also, it's adjacent to ZipQuest and Waterfall Treetop Adventure, which is really located in such an odd place if you think about it, because it's behind apartment complexes. So this beautiful gem is nestled in between apartment complexes. You've got a waterfall back there, you've got a zip lining adventure, and it's like a serene little haven of beauty in the center of residential neighborhoods. However, I don't necessarily, Mr. Floyd, why do you think that why do you think ultimately those two commissioners were against this? Because it was the commissioners voted 5-2 to reject the request. So why do you think that the five voted to reject this request?
DOLLARS.
And CENTS.
I mean, that's what that's what you have to look at
But
because
that's
as a
wisdom.
government,
That's wisdom. That's
but
wisdom.
as a
Yeah.
governmental entity, you have to be creative. And one way, other words, you can't print dollars like the federal government does. You know, you have to be creative. And like what you
Mhm.
said, I'm not flip flopping. There's 261 houses that's going to be built there, that can be built there,
Mhm.
and it won't be one hundred and
If we
forty
put
thousand dollars. Okay, there
exactly.
won't be $140,000 house. So we're talking about 3 to 500,000 houses. So that's going to increase, my tax base. So I got to look at long range planning, and that goes back to the civic center. And we talked about this, and others that talked about it. Is it on or is
Pick
it
your
off?
phone up, Lord. Pick your phone up because the your vibration is picking up in your microphone.
Okay.
Um,
The
but you're absolutely right. It's about dollars and cents, and I think that's one of the things that the county has always done better than the city government. The county government has always out negotiated at every turn. They've always made decisions that were in the best interest of their budget. They make good decisions for their budget, and the city makes emotional decisions with their budget. And the
well,
county
see,
doesn't, the county has traditionally not cared if the people, nobody really talked about the impact of the county's decisions. They've traditionally not cared about the emotional tantrums that the citizens would throw because they were making good budget decisions at the county.
well, the county has always been conservative in its planning. It's just like we mentioned about whether the civic center or convention center is on or off, because they
Hmm.
said what it's going to be paid for with restricted funding, meaning hotel occupancy taxes and the food taxes. That's how
Hmm.
they're going to pay for it. So it's not that it's coming out of general fund; it's coming out of those restricted funds. But what some saying is that if we're going to spend this kind of money, let it be where it can grow money instead of downtown where it's locked. But I always talk about my parking deck. Okay,
Hmm.
but if you look at my parking deck, it's 4 stories with no elevator. That's one. But if you look at the number of business that have left from downtown, just Wells Fargo have already departed. What have shut down this location, and then you talk
Hmm.
about Huss Hardware, and you talk about Lumby National Bank, Lumby Bank.
Hmm.
When we talk about so so when you make that kind of investment, this is what some county commissioners looked at. Let's make an investment where it can grow the money. So
Hmm.
the other portion of it is that you had the county was sued based on the old crown. So
Hmm.
they are going to spend. So some county board of commissioners said, okay, now why not renovate that building? So what you gonna do with the building after you spend $145 million and $30 million on the parking deck? That building, if you still gonna have to be in compliance with ADA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I still don't understand how can that building be complied with ADA and the city parking deck don't. I don't know.
I don't know either, Mr. Floyd. I don't know either. Time shall tell.
I
I
mean,
know
I
you
think.
gave us. Go ahead.
Are you stuck at what, T?
I was gonna say, I know you gave us a time frame that we needed to be wrapping up today. Thank you also to our audience for tuning in late with us today. We had some things going on this morning that we had to shift. We certainly appreciate that you have joined us, at this time, and we are streaming live. So y'all, if you didn't catch us, live, go ahead and catch us later. Mr. Floyd, we are gonna have to talk about the county budget and the state budget next week on our podcast. We also have some things in the works where I know we said we were going to get three former legislators from the General Assembly to include yourself, and three from the Fayetteville City Council to include myself, to talk about just all the stuff that's going on, so that we can get different perspectives that have been there, served in those seats, to come and really let the people know, hey, here's how we see this. This is the political posturing behind this. This is what makes sense. This is what ain't going nowhere, so that people can get a perspective and really start to build on their own personal understanding of how all this works. Floyd, I'm so excited about this election cycle that's coming up. I can't wait to see. I'm going to tell you another reason. I know I keep telling y'all the reasons that I think Mitch is not going to run. Let me tell y'all another reason why I think Mitch is not going to run. I talked to somebody recently who handles ads for the papers that go out in the communities. Now, Floyd, like I know, these seasoned politicians, they get the ads early because they want optimal placement. And so they start talking to these papers 6 months in advance, sometimes longer than that, to be able to make sure they get optimal placement. Mitch has not even talked to this person, and this is a key person in the game when it comes to getting your placement. And that is just another reason why I think
Well,
he's not going to run this time. I'm going to be
T,
very surprised if he
what T,
announces a run.
what T should look at it. The more people that file in this community,
Mm-hmm.
the more individuals that file for a position, the better chance for the incumbent.
Yeah.
The less people that file, the incumbent will have a harder time.
But the
Okay.
incumbent might not be running, Mr. Floyd.
But we talked about this, Steve. What I mean, we talked about this before, is that the person might want to run for a House seat. Okay,
I don't
I'm
see it.
sorry, a
Yeah.
Senate seat.
I
Okay,
don't see it. I don't
but
see it.
that to me, I can't see you leaving a mayorship, going to be a member of the Senate, which makes up 50 members, and you become number 51. It's just hard for me to understand that. But however, strange thing happened in Fayetteville, and you well know the people in Fayetteville vote for how well I like you, not whether or not you can be an Amazon.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna believe. I'm gonna continue to keep hope alive in District 3, and I'm gonna believe that we have good sense over here, and we're gonna vote for who's best for us, not just in our district, because it's gonna be an open
I don't
seat.
believe it.
I
I
believe in
don't
my
believe it.
district.
No, you all vote for how well you like the person, not whether or not they will stand up for you and do things to make your community better.
So I
Only
guess
way
I
that
guess
you
when
vote
they had
is
me,
how well.
I guess when they had me, Mr. Floyd, I checked both boxes. Yeah, you got to get out of there.
Yeah. Okay.
I see you
Yeah.
nodding. We'll pick this up
Okay.
next week, but I just wanted to make sure we told our audience that. Mr. Floyd, what you want to leave our people with?
Don't drink too much liquid over the holidays.
Because we don't want you to get a ticket and have to sit down there and find a place to park when you go to court. And I'll say I'm gonna use your one that you say, a dog that'll carry, bring a bone will carry one. So just mind who you're talking to and what you say to them. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's the golden rule. It's biblical. It's a solid principle. If you apply it, you'll do well. Well, please like, share, subscribe, and follow. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and we will catch you on the next episode.